A cutting cord spell looks like this. This white candle is sort of like, and the white candle is like the candle that I use on the altar. It's what I call the work light. It's my work light. When I light that candle on my altar, I'm telling spirit that work is about to begin. This is my work light. And I've seen a friend of mine had a cutting cord spell that she was showing, and she had red candles. And I said, oh, why do you use red candles? She's like, oh, that's all I had. So just to say, the white candle in I have so many white candles. I use my white candles on my altar. That's my work candle. So um, if you don't have white candles, I suppose you could use something else. So there's white candles and there's two black candles. They are tied together by red string or thread or yarn, and they're in a tray filled with cascadia, which is crushed eggshells. And I have these two candles in these little candle holders. But some people like to just melt the wax and put it straight down on the tray, and that's fine too. Um, Red thread is best. You could use black, but I think red is very symbolic. It's symbolic of this invisible cord between you and this other person. I suppose if you really needed to, you could, but I've only done the cutting cord spell with red, so it's totally thing. Yes, and you can crush the egg yourself. So what I'm going to do before I go through the spell, I'm going to show you my recipe for cascadia, which is crushed eggshells. Crushed eggshells. Now you can't really see it in the bottom of this plate, but it's crushed eggshells, and it is used as hex breaking and hex breaking spells. It's used in like separation spells. It's used for protection spells. So I'm going to show you how I can make it, how you can make it. Use white candle. And so can I use white candle instead of a black candle, or is a better color substitute for black candles? Black candles for this, in this example, black candles will really work the best. If you don't have black candles, you can always substitute white. But the black candles are chosen because they absorb negativity. And if you don't have access to black candles, then you take your white candles and you tell them, like, you are in this, you talk to your candles, you talk to your ingredients, and you're saying, you're going to be black candles today. You're going to be black candles because I need you to absorb negativity. This is why I have you here today. So you just tell the candles what you tell those white candles that they are that they are substituting for the black candles. But the whole idea about using black candles is that they absorb and banish negativity. So first I'm going to show you how to make cascadia. So you can use leftover eggshells, and you use a mortar and pestle or a coffee grinder. So what you do with those eggshells, you rinse them out and allow them to dry completely. And if you don't have a day or so, let them dry naturally. And you could if you don't have a day or so to let them dry naturally, you can bake them for 200 degrees Fahrenheit for about 20 minutes. And then you can grind the eggshells in a mortar and pestle for your desired consistency. Now, also, when they're still wet, when they're still new, they have like a membrane on the inside of them. So if you need to work quickly, you're going to have to try to pull the membrane from inside the egg. But if you have time to let it dry naturally, then you won't have to deal with it. Or, you put it in, let the eggshells bake in an oven for a few minutes, and then that dries them out, and then you can grind them in a mortar and pestle or a grinder. Now, most people see cascadia as a powder, and also by using a powder also makes it last longer. And so you can make the cascadia powder by grinding the eggshells into a fine powder and then adding flour. And then what some people do, they will make chalk with the cascadia. They'll add hot water to it to create a paste, and they'll let it dry. Some people use cascadia then to create sigils, to write sigils, to make markings on things. So if that is something that you practice, cascadia would be good for that. If you're going to, you can use like a cascadia paste or chalk to write to draw protective symbols. That's a really great way to do it. What's the eggshell versus flower ratio? That's a really good question. I think you kind of see for yourself, because like if you grind it really, really small, you can make it stretch out longer. Because I think that's the whole point. The you want it to be as fine as possible, and you can also you can add the flour to the mortar and pestle and grind it, grind it, grind it, grind it. And the whole idea with adding the powder is that it stretches it out. The flour add it. Uh, so I said go by sight. I kind of eyeball it, and because it's a mixture, you'll end up using less of the eggshell than you would if it was just straight. So I have some pictures for you. So this is from I made a what do you call one of those things? A reel on Instagram. So picture one, this is there's the eggs, and I actually even have like brown and white egg. Traditionally, they might not use the brown egg, but for my purposes, I did mix them. So you might want to just do straight white, or just go with whatever's handy, because I know that there are also other magical practices that also use crushed eggshells. They don't call it cascadia, but they use crushed eggs because there is a symbolism there. Now, if you needed some kind of you needed a vegan alternative, there is an actual plant called cascadia. It's in the Caribbean, and you might be able to find that in a botanica, like one of those spiritual stores. You can find them online at on Etsy. The thing about Cascadia is that it was this plant, and it was like a white powder that came from the plant, but it was harder to source. So magical practitioners began to use eggshells, and then they would add the flour to make it stretch. So this is just also an example of substitutions happening because resources were not always easy. So in box one, picture one, that's me. I'm crushing it. I'm just crushing the eggshells with my hand into a mortar and pestle. And then just a little bit, just so they kind of fit into the mortar and pestle. Picture two, I am grinding the mortar and pestle. I'm the eggshells in the mortar and pestle. And then three, I'm just taking a funnel and I'm putting it in a jar. And that's just only the shells. Like that's not even grinding it and adding powder. You can do that yourself, but I said like eyeball that and see what you like. Because you could take, for example, you see how much is in that jar right now. If I've ground it even more so that it was a really fine powder, I could fill the rest of I could fill like up to the top of that, at least like to the curve of that jar with flour. So you can use much more flour than eggshell. I hope that helps. Yeah, so Kaya was asking about the eggshell, Kaya, I'm sorry, the eggshell to flour ratio. So you can use lots of flour and that will stretch it out. Got it. Okay, thank you. All right, so so you make the cascadia, and then you just save it for, people also use cascadia for protection. They use it instead of black salt. Witches have like black salt or witch's salt. They put that in corners of their homes. They line their doorways, windows, places that they want to protect from the outside. Cascadia or crushed eggshells is used the same way. So this is just another tool you can use. Now, for the cutting cord spell, we're using the cascadia as a separation element. So the symbolism here is you are represented by one of the black candles, and the thing or the person that you want to separate from, they're represented in the other black candle. And then so we tie them up with a red string, thread, yarn, whatever, and we burn the candles, and then we cut them. And I'm going to give you instructions for that. So anyway, but this is just very, very simple and quite elegant, actually. 2 black chime candles. And I guess if you have a taller candle, you could do that. But the reason why we choose a chime candle is because they only take about 2 or 3 hours to burn. You don't have to sit and babysit it, but you might 2 to 3 day, like you don't need a 7 day candle for a cutting cord spell. For this, the symbolism that can happen and the magic can happen in 2 to 3 hours is enough. So, okay, we have the 2 black chime candles, a string of red thread, yarn, or cord, Cascadia, which is like underneath the candles, and scissors. That's all we need. So then we light both of the candles and you place it on a heat resistant plate with a tray, or a tray with the Cascadia on the bottom. You read a petition letter aloud. So think about, what do you want to separate from? So you might be so also when it comes to those candles, you can scribe your name onto one of the candles, and you can scribe the name of the person, or if you're doing more than one person, I guess you can kind of, if you have enough space to scribe that onto the other candle. Or if it's something like debt, excess weight, what that thing that you are releasing. This is all about cutting cords. This is about releasing. So it could be a person that you're cutting a cord with, or it could be a thing. Now, I tend to like petition letters because I want to be very clear with myself and the universe. Like, this is what I am letting go of. I am releasing this debt. I'm releasing debt from my life. I am releasing lack mentality from my life. I am releasing fuckboys from my life. Like, I'm making a conscious decision to do something differently. So I prefer to use petition letters in addition to anything I write on there. You might feel a little differently, and the candles might be just enough, especially if you can just like scrawl what you want onto the candle. But I tend to like petition letters because I want to be really clear. So you light both the candles, you read the petition letter aloud, and you visualize your desired outcome. Visualize what you want, not what you don't want. If you are cutting cords with debt, for example, you want to see yourself you want to see yourself feeling good. You want to see yourself feeling free and not unstressed or happy. Keep everything positive. What is your desired outcome? You want to, if you're like cutting cords with weight, then you want to see yourself happy and healthy, at a healthy weight. If you are releasing yourself from a person, seeing yourself maybe moving on, or seeing the both of you happy and separate. So think about what you want to see. Think about your desired outcome, what you want, not what you don't want. So after you feel like, okay, I've read the letter, I can see what it is in my life, I can see the future that I want, you cut that red string with your scissors. Then you allow the candles to burn down. And then, as I said, that's going to be about 2 or 3 hours if you use a chime candle. Then you dispose of the remains away from your home. Okay, so Latanda asks, can anything be used in place of eggshells? If you wanted to find the actual Cascadia, you could try a Botanica. They might have the actual herb, because it's a white powder. And if you do go to a Botanica, ask them for sure if they're using the actual herb or if they're using eggshells. Because like if you are vegan, for example, and you want to, and your choice is you do not want to use eggshells, then make sure if you're going to buy it from someone that you know how they made it. Okay, so it doesn't have to, no, so Monica, no, it doesn't have to be for just people. You can release things, you can release poverty, you can release debt, you can release fear, you can release like things that are getting in your way. Like when you have identified, you do the clarity candle, or you already know there are certain things that are in my way. I want to feel the fear and do it anyway, or I want to get rid of fear, or I want to cut the cord with fear so it's not gripping me so tight. So you can use that cutting cord spell for that.